In 2019, a study from the University of California observed something quietly devastating. People who felt responsible for the emotions of those around them showed stress responses identical to those caring for critically ill patients. If you've ever apologized for someone else's bad mood, stay with me. This might be the story you've been living without words. There's a kind of person who walks into a room and immediately begins reading the air. Not the temperature, not the lighting, but the emotional frequency of every face, every silence, every shift in tone. They do this without thinking, the way others breathe. And somewhere in that silent act of reading, something heavier happens. They begin to believe they are the author of what they've only just observed. This is not empathy. Empathy allows you to feel with someone. This is something more consuming, a belief that you are responsible for what others feel, as if their peace depends on your performance, your presence, your endless adjustment. You become the emotional thermostat of every space you enter, and the dial is always in your hand. It begins so young that most people don't remember the moment it started. A parent's sigh becomes a question. What did I do wrong? A friend's silence becomes a mission. How do I fix this? Children are brilliant emotional translators. They learn that love sometimes comes wrapped in mood, and that safety can depend on keeping others calm, content, comfortable. So they begin to manage, not toys, not tasks, but feelings, other people's feelings. And the child who learns this early becomes the adult who cannot stop. They carry an invisible job description no one gave them, and no one can see. They are the peacekeeper at dinner tables, the one who texts first after conflict, even when they weren't wrong. The person who feels anxiety rising not from their own life, but from sensing someone else might be upset, with them, near them, because of them. This is called emotional hyper-responsibility, and it lives in the body like a second nervous system. Psychologically, this pattern stems from what's known as enmeshment, a blurred boundary between self and other. In healthy relationships, you can recognize that someone else's anger, sadness, or disappointment exists independently of you. You can witness it without wearing it. But for those raised in environments where emotional expression was unpredictable, unsafe, or used as control, the line dissolves. The child learns, if they are upset, I am in danger. If I can manage their emotions, I can manage my safety. The brain encodes this as survival, and survival doesn't retire when childhood ends. Neuroscience shows that individuals with this trait often have heightened activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for detecting emotional conflict and error. Their brains are wired to scan for emotional disturbance, the way a smoke detector scans for fire. But here's the cruelty of it. The alarm never stops. Even in safe rooms, with safe people, the system stays on. And so they live in a constant state of emotional vigilance. Monitoring tone, watching faces, replaying conversations for signs they hurt someone, disappointed someone, or failed to make someone happy. It is exhausting in a way that doesn't show. There are no visible wounds, just a person who seems caring, thoughtful, always available, and secretly completely drained. There's a moment many of them describe, a moment when they realize they've spent years apologizing for things that weren't their fault, not mistakes, moods, reactions, other people's hard days. They've said sorry for existing in a way that didn't suit someone else's comfort, and they've believed deeply that this was love. But love does not require you to shrink every time someone else is uncomfortable. Love does not ask you to carry the emotional weight of every room you enter, as if your worth is measured by how little disruption you cause. That's not love. That's a learned fear dressed up as care. The internal conflict is this. If I stop managing everyone's emotions, will I still be wanted? If I stop being useful in this way, will I still be loved? It feels like the only currency they have, the only value they bring. And beneath that is an even deeper fear. If I let go of this responsibility, who will I be? Because this role has become identity, the helper, the absorber, the one who makes everything okay. To stop doing that feels like disappearing, and yet, continuing it feels like drowning. So they stay suspended, stuck between the fear of losing connection and the exhaustion of maintaining it at such a cost. And the people around them often don't notice, because people get used to someone always adjusting, always accommodating, always managing the emotional weather so no one else has to. It looks like kindness, and it is kind, but it's also a prison. The turning point doesn't come from a single revelation. It comes from a slow, painful recognition. I have been trying to control something that was never mine to control. Other people's emotions belong to them. Their reactions, their moods, their frustrations. These are not puzzles you were meant to solve. You cannot be responsible for someone else's inner world, not because you are not caring enough, but because it's not possible. Each person is the author of their own emotional experience, shaped by histories and wounds and wiring you cannot see or rewrite. Your presence may contribute, but you are not the cause, and you are not the cure. This truth is both devastating and liberating. Devastating because it means you've been carrying a weight that was never yours. Liberating because it means you can finally set it down. There's a term in psychology, differentiation. It describes the ability to remain emotionally connected to others while maintaining a clear sense of self, to be close without merging, to care without carrying. It's the difference between empathy and enmeshment, between supporting someone and becoming responsible for their peace. People who learn this don't become cold. They don't stop caring. They simply stop believing that another person's emotional state is a reflection of their worth, their failure, or their job to fix. And slowly, something shifts. They begin to notice when they're apologizing out of habit, not harm. When they're people-pleasing instead of connecting. When they're performing calm instead of feeling it. They start to practice something radical, letting others feel what they feel, without rushing in to manage it, soothe it, or take the blame for it. At first, this feels like abandonment, like cruelty. The nervous system panics. If I don't fix this, something bad will happen. But nothing bad happens. The other person might be upset for a while. They might need space or time or their own process. And that's okay, because their process is theirs. What begins to happen instead is this. Relationships become more honest. When you stop managing others' emotions, you stop performing a version of yourself designed to keep them comfortable. You become more real. And the people who stay for that. Not for the version of you that never disrupts, never disappoints, never needs. The ones who leave were never connected to you. They were connected to what you did for them. And that grief is real. But it's also clarifying. Healing from emotional hyper-responsibility doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring for yourself with the same devotion you've given everyone else. It means recognizing that your emotional energy is not infinite, that you are allowed to have boundaries, that saying no, stepping back, or simply not absorbing someone's frustration does not make you selfish. It makes you human. You begin to ask a different question. Not how do I make them feel better, but what do I actually feel right now? And that question, as simple as it sounds, is revolutionary. Because for so long, your feelings have come last, if they've come at all. You've been so busy reading the room you forgot you were in it. There's a quietness that comes when you stop trying to control the emotional temperature of everyone around you. Not the quietness of withdrawal, but of presence. You can sit with someone who's upset and not frantically search for the right words to make it go away. You can let silence exist without filling it. You can love people and let them have their hard days, their bad moods, their disappointments, without making it about you. And in that space, something unexpected happens. People start showing up differently. Because when you're not managing their emotions, they have to hold their own. Some will rise to it, some won't. And both of those outcomes will teach you something. The ones who resent your boundaries were depending on your lack of them. The ones who respect your limits were waiting for you to have them. And you'll learn that real intimacy doesn't come from emotional management. It comes from being honest about what you can and cannot carry. It comes from saying, I care about you, and I can't fix this for you. That sentence is one of the most loving things you can offer. Because it sees the other person as capable. It trusts them with their own experience. And it frees you both. The people who feel responsible for others' emotions are not broken. They are not too sensitive, too much, or too anything. They are people who learn to survive by becoming useful, who learned that their value was measured in how little trouble they caused, how much peace they kept, how well they absorbed what others couldn't hold. And that learning served them once. It kept them safe, kept them connected, kept them loved, or what felt like love. But it doesn't have to serve them forever. You can unlearn the belief that love is earned through emotional labor. You can release the idea that your worth is tied to someone else's comfort. You are not the emotional infrastructure of every space you enter. You are a person, with your own needs, your own limits, your own inner world that deserves attention. And the people who truly love you will not ask you to abandon that. If this landed somewhere deep, share it with someone who's been carrying too much for too long. Sometimes the most healing thing we can hear is, "You're allowed to put that down."